I do reference other rap music though. I try to stay relevant and understand
Yeah.
where everyone's going with everything. So I will like listen in just to listen in, not
Yeah.
to bob my head or enjoy it. But I will say I found myself a couple times where I've been doing that, and I kind of catch my mind going where it shouldn't. Like I'm like, you know,
Uh-huh.
and before you know it, okay, 2 days have gone, and why am I still listening to it?
Yeah.
You know, so like that was something that was within the past year. That was probably a recent conviction that I dealt with. That you know, I need to kind of pull back from doing that. You know, so much and
Yeah.
keep a
There's a
limit on it.
Yeah, there's definitely a limit that should be there. I like stylistically, I like a lot of that music. It's not the horrorcore, but maybe if, like Ritz or Yellow Wolf or Tech Nine
Yep,
or whatever the
yep,
case is, and especially stylistically, if we're going to be relevant to the culture and bring something to the table, we have to know, because there's a huge problem with Christian rappers right now, and I went through this, and people, some of my brothers would talk down and be like, dude, I can't believe you're listening to that. We're supposed to be holy. I'm like, and I want to say, that's why your music still sounds like it came out in 1994, dude. Your music is way behind it, and I swear I'm 100% with this. You have a lot of Christian artists who are in the gospel music scene is oversaturated with artists, and they quit listening to secular music, and they quit. Let's just say they quit Let's just say they got saved in 2000, and they quit listening to secular music in 2000. In 2008, when they get ready to drop their album, 2018, whatever, their last hip hop reference is 2000's Ti.
it's dated.
Yeah, it's dated, and
It's
so
dated.
they're coming out with music that sounds, and it's, you know, they say that Christian music is 7 years behind secular music or whatever the industry is doing, and it shows. I mean, you're doing music that sounds like old school Master P.
Typically, yeah.
I did
Yep.
it. It happened to me. I quit listening.
Yep.
I quit listening to gangster rap music, and then years after, I wanted to start rapping, and my music sounded like old school C Murder and Master P and crunk music, which we were in the snap music area, and I had no idea what it was, and then I would hear it on the radio in passing. But it's not like you haven't heard it, but it's to be relevant. And when you listening to people like Ritz, Yellow Wolf, and Tech, for me, it's about the speed. Okay, it's not
Yep.
that
Yep.
I'm not as fast as those guys at all, but if I can step up a little, because I love fast rap, right? So if I can step my game up a little bit to kind of what they're doing, just a little bit, and speed it up, bring my delivery up, listen to the beats that are people are still finding producers who are making beats that sound like they came out in 2000, and that's part of it. And so they kind of rag on you for listening to secular rap, but it should be done in a sense of like you said, not entertaining what they're saying, but the
Yeah.
stylistically, the delivery, because there's so many times, and people don't know this, man. I've seen it so many times doing gospel rap. So years ago, there's a website called thesouth.com, and this is where all the Christian rappers were.
Oh man,
And
that's
and there was a forum
yeah.
there where
That's all.
where you can actually share your music there, and get collabs and stuff. And so there was a dude named Mike Shelton. This is just one example. I worked with Mike Shelton, but he would do remixes to popular songs on the radio, and he would do like songs by Bun B and Paul Wall. He would take those beats and put his own lyrics to them, and he would release them, and the Christian audience thought that those were his original songs, enough to where people were watching like shows on MTV, and they would play Paul Wall's music, and they would write Mike Shelton and tell him that Paul Wall stole his music because they thought it was his, and he's doing remixes and stuff. And so there's a huge disconnect when it comes to the whole, saying Christian music and people who are doing it. It's just so far behind, and they don't know what's relevant. So one of the big things about the whole secular sacred divide thing, that was a buzzword that was used with Lecrae reaching out and Lecrae working with secular artists. And there's pros and cons. And as someone who's done Christian music, I don't consider myself a Christian artist anymore. Somebody's asking that in the chat, but there's a divide there. Lecrae, you can listen to these dudes' music. They bite off of the secular artists like Lecrae, Cannon, KB. These guys, you might not listen to Yellow Wolf, but they do. They do. That's why their music sounds relevant for the most part, and even their music still sounds behind because they're listening to the secular music. A album that may have been out 6 months to a year, they listen to it and they recreate it, and then it takes a while for that to come out, and so they're listening to the music of the culture and they're recreating it for the church crowd. And
Yeah.
so there's a bunch
And
of punchlines and bars and rhyming schemes that I remember listening to Yellow Wolf. And like, what? Cannon said that. And Cannon took rhymes from Yellow Wolf. I'm like, Cannon listens to Yellow Wolf? So if I'm taking you on top of the Hollywood Valley looking over the alleyway, I make your balloon pop. It's like Cannon took that and changed 2 or 3 words and took the same thing from Yellow Wolf. I was like, oh my God. And you start hearing it more and more and more and them taking the beats and just like, oh my goodness, man.
they Jay-Z in it.
They are. And the weird thing about it is like I don't believe we should be 7 years behind, bro. I believe and so that's why I've kind of distanced myself from it. And I think that you know what I'm saying, what I'm doing is really different. That it's relevant. It's totally different, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to think outside the box and bring something different to the table. Someone in the chat room, Chris Garner, he says, "I told a guy who listens to a lot of NF, which we can go ahead
Oh, I
and
love NF.
we
I
love
ain't even gonna lie.
NF, but
I
we know
love NF.
but we know NF loves Eminem. Okay, let's just say that. Okay, he says, I told a guy who listens to a lot of NF about Truth Seeker, and he listened and called your music secular. I guess I would call my music secular as far as it's not Christian. Like it's not. I don't do gospel rap anymore. And essentially, when you stop doing gospel rap, it's when you make songs that aren't about the gospel or aren't about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. Right? Like they think that you have to put all of that in every song, and if you don't, then you can't be here. And they would, like, they would say stuff to me back in the day, even when I did gospel rap, like every song has to be able to lead people to salvation. It's like, bro, I can't.
That's not true.
I know, right?
So
It's
you
like
can't
these
make a love.
these
So you
rules
can't
that
make a
don't
love.
exist. You know?
You can't make a love song to your wife or a
No.
song to your daughter. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Like,
Yep.
I mean, granted, your faith should show through in every song that you are within those parameters. But to
Mm-hmm.
say, I mean, my new album is full of the gospel, but I got a couple songs that are just straight up personal. I'm
Yeah.
just, and I even make some Christian references in those songs.
Yeah.
But
And it should be.
there's
It
no,
should be.
yeah, yeah. It should bleed through everything.
Yeah. No doubt. So what? Like this podcast, whatever we have on, I don't. This isn't a Christian podcast. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be people who have never been in relationship with Christ, and they're going to hear your story and you know what I'm saying, your truth and what's working for you, and they're going to consider it, man. They may come through revelation of Christ through this podcast by hearing your story. And if we wouldn't have you on, or if we wouldn't be in a place that was so-called secular, right? We used to give people hell for having secular music around us back in the day, man. You know, it's so funny, Chris. I'm reading these comments here. Chris says, how dare you be Christian and talk about the Kundalini? I love you guys, man. Mr. Matty Moses says, I feel like As I Lay Dying did a good job mixing in the Christian elements. No doubt, because As I Lay Dying talked a lot about their personal struggle. I think the same way, this is going out on a limb, but maybe even some Tupac. Just essentially being psalms. What are the psalms? My enemies are chasing me. They're trying to kill me. God, I need you to help me. I feel like I'm going to die. I feel like I'm all alone. Please help. And this is David writing songs to God about his enemies about to kill him and chasing him. And
Yeah.
he feels alone. And so that's what that is. That's the poetry. That's art. It's like, how are you to label, like, I can't put my life experiences and what I feel, the stuff I'm wrestling with, and be authentic or you have to act like you don't believe that. You have to act like you don't dream that or have those emotions. You can't do a song about struggling with pornography because you're supposed to be set free from pornography, right? You know, all of this type of stuff that you can't. They've got these imaginary rules that they made up and they don't make any sense.
Yeah, and it's not just that; it's the bylaws that you typically see from congregations. You know, they set up their own man-made standard for the church, and this is what you have to fit to be on the platform, or this and that.
Oh
and,
man,
it got weird
at the end for me, bro.
A lot of these bylaws, like, well, not a lot of them. If they're bylaws, they're not biblical. It's something man-made. Like,
they get weird, bro. Traditions of men is what the scriptures call it.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast segment, be sure to listen to the entire episode by clicking the video to your right. Also, we are on iTunes. You can download the MP3 versions as well. Be sure to subscribe for future episodes.